Ladies and gentlemen, let's be real. The words we use hold incredible power to connect, power to attract, and power to build emotional intimacy. But in today's world of overused pet names like baby or honey, we've unknowingly diluted the emotional currency of those words. They've become generic, empty, almost like autopilot responses. When you say the words "I see you," it may appear simple, but the emotional depth and impact of those three little words can transform a woman's entire day, mindset, and sense of self-worth. "I see you" doesn't mean you're just looking at her physical appearance or checking out her outfit. It goes way beyond that. It tells her that you are tuned in, that you notice not just the surface but the soul, that you're paying attention to the emotions she hides behind her smile, the struggle she carries in silence, the effort she puts into being strong, beautiful, nurturing, and composed in a world that rarely pauses to acknowledge the invisible work women do every single day. Women are often expected to be everything all at once: smart, sexy, gentle, fierce, supportive, independent, and they do it with so much grace. But deep down, many of them are quietly wondering if anyone really sees them beneath the roles they play, beneath the labels and expectations, beyond their looks and titles. And so, when a man looks her in the eyes and says with sincerity, "I see you," he does something that so few do. He recognizes her humanity, he validates the emotional labor she performs, the energy she invests in her family, her career, her growth, her appearance, her mental health, and the silent ways she shows love. He steps beyond what's obvious and chooses to connect with what's real. When you see her walk in from work tired but still smiling, and you say, "I see how hard you're working lately, and I admire your strength," you're not just complimenting her. You're affirming her purpose. You're telling her that her efforts are not wasted, her energy is not invisible, and her strength does not go unnoticed. And that affirmation is oxygen to a woman who's used to giving everything while receiving very little emotional validation in return. Imagine what that does to her. It melts her walls, it softens her defenses, it makes her feel safe in your presence, and that emotional safety becomes the foundation for trust and attraction. Women aren't looking for perfect men. They're looking for men who are present, emotionally awake, and able to see them beyond their bodies. "I see you" taps into the desire that every woman has, to be known, to be understood, to be witnessed in the fullness of her being. Not just her beauty, it's a way of showing emotional maturity. Instead of relying on lazy compliments like "you look hot" or "you're my baby," you're stepping into a space of intentional appreciation. You're showing her that you don't just want her, you're taking the time to know her. That knowing is what builds emotional intimacy. That knowing is what separates you from every other guy she's ever met. And no, it doesn't require some big, dramatic speech. It's in the little moments. When you notice how she lights up when she talks about her passions and say, "I see how passionate you are about helping people," that shows you're listening. When she's trying to stay composed after a hard day and you quietly say, "I see that you're trying to stay strong even when it's not easy," that shows you're emotionally present. When she's taking care of everyone else and you say, "I see the way you always put others first," that tells her you see her heart, not just her actions. And when she opens up to you about her past, her fears or her insecurities, and you respond with "I see where you're coming from," instead of dismissing her or trying to fix it, that tells her you're the kind of man who honors her truth. That kind of emotional recognition is rare. And because it's rare, it becomes incredibly attractive. It's not performative, it's not a tactic, it's not manipulation. It's genuine, and women feel it when it's real. The reason so many men fall short emotionally is not because they don't care, it's because they don't know how to express that care in a way that feels meaningful. They default to saying baby, babe, or honey, thinking that affection alone is enough. But affection without attention becomes hollow. You can touch her body all day long, but if you don't touch her soul, you'll never fully have her. Seeing her isn't just about what's visible to the eye, it's about noticing her emotional patterns, her quiet needs, her subtle signals. It's about being aware of the changes in her energy, not just her hairstyle. It's about noticing the way she checks in on you, even when she's going through her own storm. It's about recognizing the way she holds herself together during chaos. And the truth is, when a woman feels seen, she blossoms. She becomes more confident, more affectionate, more open, more invested. It's not magic, it's responsiveness. When you water a plant, it grows. When you water a woman emotionally, she glows. So when you stop calling her the generic baby and start using the powerful phrase, "I see you," you shift the entire dynamic of your connection. You move from surface level attraction to soul level connection. And that is where deep love lives. Some men might say, "But she already knows I love her. I don't have to say it." No, don't make that mistake. A woman can know you love her and still feel unseen. She can hear "I love you" and still feel emotionally alone. What she needs is not just your love, but your attention. She needs your emotional intelligence. She needs to know that you notice what others miss, that you're present in the moments that matter, that your eyes are not just on her body, but on her soul. She needs you to see her on the days she feels invisible to the world. She needs you to notice when her smile is covering sadness, when her silence is asking for support, when her strength is being held together by sheer willpower. She needs to know you're not just looking, you're seeing. And when you do that consistently, without trying to impress, without expecting anything in return, without using it as a way to manipulate or get into her good graces, you become a man she respects, admires, trusts, and falls in love with over and over again because you gave her what so few do. You saw her, and in doing that, you gave her the emotional permission to fully be herself. No mask, no performance, no filters. Just her, in her rawest, realest form. And that is the most beautiful version of any woman. The one who knows she's safe, valued, and deeply seen by the man who chooses to look beyond the surface and straight into the core of who she is. The man who doesn't settle for calling her baby when he can say something far more meaningful. The man who doesn't just compliment her body, but compliments her spirit. The man who doesn't just want to be with her, but wants to understand her. There's something powerful about the phrase, "I appreciate you," that goes far beyond a thank you or a casual compliment. In a world where people are constantly moving, constantly working, and constantly pouring into others, genuine appreciation often goes missing. And for women especially, this lack of recognition can feel quietly exhausting. She shows up every day, giving her time, her energy, her emotional support, her creativity, and sometimes even sacrificing her own peace just to keep things balanced, steady, and thriving. And yet, how often does someone pause, look her in the eyes, and say from the heart, "I appreciate you," not just because she did something nice, but because of who she is, because of the emotional role she plays, because of the light she brings into a space that would otherwise be dull or disorganized without her presence. It's easy to assume she knows she's valued, but assumption is not affirmation, and without affirmation, appreciation remains a silent emotion, locked inside, unspoken, unfelt. When you tell a woman, "I appreciate you," you're not just boosting her ego, you're nurturing her spirit. You're giving her a reason to keep giving, a reason to feel good about who she is and how she loves. Appreciation says, "I see the good in you, and I'm grateful for it." It acknowledges that she's not taken for granted. And believe it or not, a woman can be in a relationship, a marriage, even a family dynamic, and still feel invisible if no one takes the time to truly appreciate her for the emotional contributions she brings to the table. She's often the one who holds things together, who remembers the little things, who senses the emotional shifts before anyone says a word, who checks in, who plans, who anticipates needs and meets them before you even ask. But if those efforts go unspoken, she starts to question whether her love is being returned with respect, or simply expected as a routine. Saying, "I appreciate you," shifts the energy. It opens a new emotional dimension in the relationship. It allows her to exhale and feel acknowledged, not just for what she does, but for how she makes you feel, how she holds space for you, how she makes life better in subtle yet powerful ways. And this kind of appreciation isn't about grand gestures or flowery language. It's about being intentional with your words, being mindful of her presence, and verbalizing what your heart already knows but your mouth rarely says. It's in the way you say, "I appreciate the peace you bring into my life," or "I appreciate the way you understand me when I don't even speak," or "I appreciate your strength, especially when you're dealing with your own challenges but still show up for others." These words carry emotional weight, and when spoken sincerely, they stay with her. They echo in her mind when she's tired. They wrap around her heart when she's doubting herself. They remind her that she's not just a role or a responsibility. She's a gift too many men are losing the women they love, not because they stopped loving them, but because they stopped showing that love through consistent appreciation. They replaced emotional presence with routine phrases like baby or honey, thinking that affection equals acknowledgement, but affection without appreciation quickly becomes hollow. When you reduce your communication to basic pet names, you lose the opportunity to elevate your relationship into something deeper, more meaningful, more emotionally fulfilling. A woman who feels appreciated becomes more open, more generous, more nurturing. She blooms emotionally when she knows her love is not being assumed, but treasured. And that treasure isn't always shown in gifts or expensive dates. It's shown in the words you use to affirm her value, even when there's no special occasion, no conflict, no prompting. Appreciation is a form of emotional leadership. It sets the tone for how two people relate, how they respond, how they grow. It's you, as a man, choosing to lead with gratitude instead of entitlement, choosing to notice her contributions instead of expecting them as a given, choosing to lift her emotionally instead of coasting on silent admiration. Because if you don't say it, she won't feel it. And if she doesn't feel it, no amount of physical attraction or chemistry will make up for that emotional void. Women are emotional beings. They remember how you made them feel, even more than what you did. They hold on to the words that made them feel seen, valued, and safe. "I appreciate you" is one of those rare phrases that disarms her defenses and touches her in ways physical affection can't. It says, "You matter. Your presence has impact. Your efforts don't go unnoticed." And when you make this phrase a regular part of your emotional vocabulary, you create an atmosphere of emotional safety. She no longer has to wonder if she's doing enough or if you notice the little things she does behind the scenes. She no longer guesses her role in your life. She feels emotionally secure, and security is the foundation for true intimacy, lasting trust, and emotional connection. Appreciation builds emotional deposits over time, and the more you give, the more connection you gain. So instead of defaulting to baby or honey, look her in the eyes and say what really matters. Tell her what you appreciate, how she adds value to your life, how her presence shifts your world in the best ways. Be specific, be sincere, be present. Let your words carry intention, because intention is what separates ordinary men from unforgettable ones. Saying the words, "I choose you," holds a power that most people overlook, yet it is one of the most emotionally magnetic things a woman can hear from a man. It's not about picking someone out of convenience or saying yes to a relationship out of boredom or pressure. It's about choosing, with clarity, with intent, with emotional presence. In today's world of constant options, where swiping left or right has become the way people interact, the fear of being temporary, replaceable, or simply a placeholder is very real for a lot of women. You might think that calling her baby or sweetheart is enough to make her feel loved, but what she truly wants is to know that she's been chosen, not out of loneliness, not out of habit, but because your heart sees hers and your soul recognizes her worth. "I choose you" means you're not just with her physically, but you've emotionally invested. You're telling her that out of all the noise, all the other distractions, all the maybes and what ifs, she is your yes. This goes beyond flowers and sweet names. It's about making her feel secure in a world that often makes her question her place in people's lives. When you say, "I choose you," you're not just affirming her, you're giving her a deep emotional anchor. You're telling her that despite whatever flaws, imperfections, or bad days may come, your heart is grounded in this connection, and that level of emotional certainty is something many women don't often hear. They hear "I like you," "I miss you," "you're beautiful," but rarely do they hear a man look them in the eye from a place of maturity and emotional stability and say, "I choose you," because choosing means responsibility. Choosing means presence. Choosing means that love is not just an accident. It's a decision. And when love becomes a decision, it becomes dependable. It becomes trustworthy, and this phrase doesn't only apply in big moments like anniversaries or tough conversations. It's in the small, everyday actions, when she's being difficult, when she's having a rough day, when she's not at her most lovable, choosing her still. When you're tempted by other options or emotionally disconnected, choosing to reconnect with her instead of withdrawing. When the relationship gets boring or predictable, choosing to invest energy, attention, and love instead of checking out. When you make her feel chosen, you give her the kind of emotional safety that allows her to let her guard down. Because deep down, every woman wants to know that no matter what happens around her, the man she loves sees her as his person, not just for now, but for always, and here's the truth. A woman who feels chosen becomes more secure in herself and in the relationship. She stops second guessing her value. She stops feeling like she has to compete or overperform to be loved. She becomes emotionally generous, open, and vulnerable because she's not operating from fear. When a man consistently chooses her with his words, with his actions, with his time, with his patience, she feels emotionally safe. And emotional safety is the bedrock of intimacy. You cannot build trust on cute names alone. You cannot build depth with surface-level compliments, but you can build something lasting when your love is backed by a daily, intentional choice. A choice to show up, to be honest, to prioritize, and to stay even when it's easier to walk away. Too many relationships fall apart not because the love disappeared, but because one or both people stopped choosing each other. They let distance, assumptions, distractions, and pride become louder than their commitment. So when you say, "I choose you," and you back it up with consistency, with presence, and with follow-through, you offer her something that no sweet nickname can compete with: certainty. And it's not about saying it once and expecting her to believe it forever. It's about making that choice visible, tangible, and repeatable. Choosing her when you're tired, choosing her when she's struggling, choosing her when temptation arises, choosing her when the relationship feels like work, choosing her in word and in action. That choice is what separates a good partner from a great one. Anyone can fall in love, but staying in love requires decision. And the woman in your life doesn't want to feel like she's one argument away from being replaced. She doesn't want to feel like she's just convenient. She wants to feel desired, but more importantly, she wants to feel chosen. Not just when she looks her best, not just when things are exciting, not just when the mood is light, but even when things are hard, even when she's showing you her vulnerable, raw, emotional side, even when you don't understand everything she's feeling. She wants to know that the man standing in front of her sees all of her and says, "I still choose you." This phrase doesn't require poetry or perfect timing. It requires heart. It requires courage. It requires emotional maturity. Because choosing someone means you're not letting fear, ego, or external voices make decisions for you. You are owning your love. You are leading with clarity. You are saying with your whole being, "I know who you are. I know what we've been through. I know what lies ahead, and through it all, I still want you." And that kind of emotional certainty doesn't just win her heart. It holds it, heals it, and keeps it so. Here's the truth. Baby and honey might roll off your tongue easily, but they don't go far. If you want to win her heart, create an emotional experience she feels deep in her soul. Say, "I see you," and validate who she is. Say, "I appreciate you," and affirm her worth. Say, "I choose you," and prove she's your priority, because the right words said with sincerity can do more than charm her. They can connect, captivate, and keep her. And that, my friend, is how you win her heart without ever saying "baby" again.